Today we're going to be working on an Enesco, the cutest show on earth multi-action musical. This was sent in along with a couple others, but it's not working. I'm not sure what's wrong with it. I have not opened it until right now. So we all get to see this thing together. Here it is. There's nothing in the packaging. But we are going to move the packaging, put it back, so we don't lose any of the foam or the piece of cardboard that's in there. It says, plays the tune, Be a Clown. So, apparently it's a music box. We'll get this plastic. It says Enesco Music Certified Excellence Society. So Enesco Music Society Certified Excellence. So okay, seems to be working just fine. The mechanism up here is swinging. Let's let it run for a second. This guy is moving back and forth. Oh, it's hard to see with the camera. It's going to be pretty intricate because the base is moving, which is not spinning the center shaft, but this guy is swinging, and this one is teetering back and forth in the pole. So I'm assuming there's a mechanism that goes up that engages this pole here, and then goes up to the top and makes this guy swing. And we'll turn it back off. You can see made in China exclusively for Enesco. Enesco Musical, Be a Clown. You can see there's where the little fingers are that hit the little knobs on the wheel too. So that's where it would be a speaker if it was electronic. So I'm not sure what's wrong with this one. It seems to be functional. So put it down flat and try it again just to see if anything screws up. So far, so good. I know with the camera angle you can't tell, but might have to message the owner and ask him what's going on with this one. Since she's working fine. Unless it's an intermittent problem. But it's a spring-loaded mechanism. Usually they either work or they don't. There's no in-betweens. If you've ever seen a music box. Okay, I see what the problem is and why it was sent in. Just had to look at it closer. So let's turn it off so you don't have to hear the high-pitched tones. When it's working, this guy is swinging, which it is. This one is wobbling, which it is. This one has the cheese spinning, which it does. This one just rotates. It's supposed to pedal. I don't know if you can see that I can move. And you can see its legs moving. Anyway, there's a drive belt right down in there. Looks like an O-ring. It's supposed to be touching this wheel. So as it goes around, it looks like this mouse is pedaling. Yeah, out of wind, of course. Give it just a couple of clicks. You can tell the legs aren't moving. It's not touching. But yet that belt or pulley is rotating. So it's an alignment issue with the mouse. So I'm going to let it run for a few moments. I'm probably going to pause. You don't have to listen to it. To unwind the tension on that spring. Okay, apparently that was fast. Well, apparently it got stuck because it's getting weak. Not weak because it's broken, weak because the spring is almost fully unwound. So, let's get out a screwdriver. It's a Phillips on the bottom. And we are going to open this bad boy up and take a look at it. So, let's get the chair out and have a seat and work on this thing. This will be my first time working on a music box. Never worked on any before, so I know generally what the insides look like. So this just has 3 screws. And they're machine screws, so they must thread into a boss, whether it's a boss embedded in plastic or it's a metal plate that it screws into. Make sure there's nothing up in here, because these are hollow legs. Nope, I don't feel anything. Use a slightly smaller. I just want to verify there's nothing inside the hole before I continue. So if I'm just unscrewing the music box mechanism, that's pointless. It won't take it apart. No, there are screws all the way up inside those 3 deep holes. So probably these machine screws is just the music box. So I'm not going to take out that last one until I get these guys out. Kind of glad I saw that before I continued. There's one. And there's only 3 screws. You got a deep hole, a deep hole, a deep hole, and then a shallow plastic hole that has nothing in it. There we go. So yes, those 3 screws just unscrew from the mechanism. So I'm going to put those other 2 screws back in because the mechanism works, and then I'll give you a better close-up of it in just a moment. Or at least 1 screw just to give you a basic idea, because most music boxes don't have these additional pieces attached to them. But it's flopping around, so I want to stop it from flopping. Two points of contact is better than just 1. So here's your off-on switch, which if you see there's a flapper that spins, it just stops the flapper, which stops the mechanism from rotating. If you look here, there's the drive gear. That just works on the wound up spring housing right there. So, music boxes are interesting. If you don't appreciate them, that's your choice. You have to look at the work that they put into making these. you got a barrel that flicks pieces of metal that are cut and tuned, similar to like tuning a guitar or a piano with the strings. You can tension and detension. The springs, the spring steel they use is going to be really hard to tension and detension since it's just a fan. So if you actually think about the intricacy, it's actually pretty amazing. The drive gear looks to be completely fine. I don't see any excessive wear on it. Just helping it slowly rotate since it's almost at the end of its spring winding. Just to check all the teeth. So, put that out of the way. We'll engage the off switch so it doesn't just randomly make tones while we're trying to fix this. And then here's the bottom. So that big gear right here engages this gear right here on the side, which then you can see it makes everything move. So what we need to do is get in here to find out why we're not getting any leg motion on this mouse. Which, as you can see, we have just a little screw that holds on this platform. And then you have a screw here that holds on this gear mechanism. So, and the rest of them, the rest of the components are glued in, except for this, which I think there's a screw. I don't know, my screwdriver is too short. I'm going to take off this gear first, so I can look underneath. There's the pulley bands. Hopefully you can see it. Can I rotate it? There we go. Rotate it back a little. You see the black? That's the pulley or the band that's supposed to be driving this wheel. So most likely it needs a new band. The question is, how do you get to it? This housing is attached. There's no glue or screws, it's just a cast housing. Have to grab that in a second. It's oily, so be careful with it. Don't do what I just did and slip. Now I'm assuming, oh, you can see all the oil, that it's pressed together. What I mean by that is this pin is pressed on, and I have a funny feeling that when you pry this off, it's going to release the tension and allow this to slide off. Not sure, but I'm going to just put a little tension on it and see if these gears come off at all without breaking them. There's a screw there. If I rotate it, there's a screw there that engages this wheel. Kind of looks like a grommet. Wondering if I can reposition the grommet. Kind of like two O-rings side by side. I'm not sure if they're supposed to grab the wheel on the side or directly on the face. I'm just going to realign it and see if that helps. Since I now have to let the owner know that I accidentally broke their flag and then fix it. I don't know if you can see it, her leg's moving now. It might be tough to see. So, truthfully on this one, I would think it would have 3 O-rings side by side versus 2. Just because there's a lot of play on this shaft. And I think if it would have 3, it would last longer, keep the wheel under tension better. So I'm going to, like I said, just realign it and then put it back on real quick and then have the mechanism itself drive it and see if that actually fixes the problem. It might just be an alignment issue on these O-rings. And you can align it from the top if you rotate it slowly. You can use the mechanism to do it and then just keep turning it off with that switch on the side. What I'm doing is I'm trying to get these two O-rings to be parallel to each other on the wheel and keep tension on the wheel of the unicycle or the tricycle. No, it works and then slips, works and then slips, works and then slips. Just going to use this to hold it for a second. I have another. I'm going to bring it up to the camera, and I'm going to give you another thing that might be the cause. It uses spring tension to keep this wheel onto the rubber O-rings. The spring tension is this metal bar. I'll move it out of over here, right here. The axle for the rear is actually a metal bar. You can see how I move it. I think this has gotten weak, or the O-rings have worn down enough that are not as thick. And I'm wondering if we can just realign this metal bar to put more tension down to get rid of all this motion and get it better in the alignments for the front tire or front wheel, which is these little C. It looks like a C. There's one on each side of the wheel because the wheel has a lot of play. So that keeps it from walking off of the O-rings. But the tension is very weak. So this may have been weakened over time. Any spring weakens over time. It's just the way they work. That's why you have to replace springs in your car or springs on little devices because they wear out. They don't last forever. So, to see if I can just put a little tension on the spring. I'm going to hold the back down. I'm just going to give it a little twist. Let's see if that works. I'm going to use the actual mechanical mechanism to do the full test. Make sure that's not too tight. If you over tighten the ones that are screwed, you put a lot of pressure on the mechanism. trying to get it in its bosses. There we go. Started walking the platform because I didn't have it all the way in its plate. Might have made that too tight. Excuse me. It's now pedaling, and now it stopped. It was pedaling. Apparently I pushed those O-rings just a hair too far out of alignment. The reason I keep stopping it is I'm readjusting the O-rings. They're often they're doing this, so I'm trying to get them square. Okay, the mouse is pedaling, and the mouse has stopped pedaling. You know why they use two O-rings now? The O-rings are so that front wheel has a guide and a groove. So, it's pretty fancy, basic stuff to make it work. It's not over-engineered. She's pedaling away. As I'm rotating the base to keep the top from spinning, so I can watch the pulley, the dual pulleys that are the band, sorry. Make sure they stay square. And I know that it says it's made in China, but this sound box is made in Japan. And there's probably the rest of this is cast in China and then assembled and then shipped. A lot of music boxes I see are made in Japan or Russia. I don't see too many made in China, but it says Sankyo Japan. Sankyo Japan. So I'm going to now just put a couple of those screws in to hold it in place. Because also while it's rotating, because it's a spinning gear, it's trying to lift the tire top off, which is causing some small issues for me to keep the gear is skipping teeth because the top's lifting. So I'm just going to attempt to reassemble this with its factory screws. problem with deep holed screws is they don't always line up or stay on the screwdriver. Let's see if I can find a better screwdriver. Let's try this one. Come on. Sometimes the reassembly is the hardest part. There we go. There's 4 alignment pins that line up with where these screws go. I'm not sure if I just had them out of alignment, because I can't find. Wait, that one I think caught. Hey, that's one. The reason I don't like these screwdrivers is because it's not magnetic. But let's see if we can add some magnetism to it. That's 2. If you didn't know, if you stick a little magnet on your screwdriver, usually it'll hold it enough to get it to where you need it to be. This is just a little neodymium magnet, just a cheap one. Gives me enough to hold the screw. Unfortunately, the hole's really deep, so I have to put the magnet farther back, but I got them. All 3 are now in. You can even see the oil or grease they use right there on the mat. So, let's see if it works. Wind her up and turn it on. Come on, pedal. It is pedaling, but it's intermittent. So it pedaled only about halfway around this track. I think it's still the tension. I just don't think there's enough tension on this spring. There we go. I'll try and get some lower video of this, not just from above, so you get a basic idea what's going on. But it's working now, so I'm going to set up a sideways camera so you can actually see it better, and then I'm going to glue the flag back on, and then I'll let her know that I accidentally broke it. So it'll be just a moment while I set up a sideways camera so you can actually see it, because tipping it, you don't see the motion of the things up here. So I'll be back in just a moment. All right. You can see it's pedaling. See the spinning, tipping, and swinging. Pedal, pedal, pedal. So when I set it back down, I noticed that every once in a while it would stop spinning as it would go around its track. I actually also, let's see if I can get it focus. Let's give it some light. There we go. There you can see the shine. There's an excessive amount of grease or oil on this and the O-rings down here. I dried some of it off to get better traction because the lubricant means it's not going to spin so well. And then I recentered the wheel because it kept walking off to the side. Reason being is this spring bar right here wasn't tight. I know I was trying to flex it, but I pushed down and it actually slid farther into the base of the mouse. I'm like, Once I did that, I realized that I can lift it up, which I did. I lifted it up to where the wheel was above these mounts, and then I cleaned or dried off that and then pushed it back down. Now it's hard again, like it's supposed to be. So it wasn't that the spring had flexed out of shape, it's that this piece of metal had actually, it slid up. So I might put a dab of glue right here where the blue meets the steel, and then maybe a dab right in here, the axle, where the steel meets the plastic base. That way it's less prone to walking up again, because that was the actual problem. I found it when I was switching cameras. I also did fix the flag, since I accidentally broke it, because it's just super slimy in there. So it now pedals. His nose spins the cheese, they swing back and forth, and then she wobbles on the balance beam. There it goes, pedaling. So technically didn't have to pull it apart, but at least you got to see how the mechanism inside works. All this could have been fixed at the top edge. Did not know that. But I got to see how Enesco builds some of these music boxes. This is just one of a few I have that were sent to be looked at to see if they could be repaired. So if you have this one, the Cutest show on earth, the multi-action musical from Enesco, and your mouse clown balancing on a trike, start spinning the wheel and the legs. One, see if it's over lubricated on the belt. Two, make sure it's pushed down all the way on that metal bar, which is what holds everything up, which is also right there for the rear wheels. And then turn it off since it's running out of music juice, and it's probably quite annoying on the camera because higher pitches are picked up much better on microphones for some reason. So luckily or unluckily, depending on how you look at it, didn't have to open it up to see how these guys work. But we saw that there's a shaft that goes all the way up. I'm not sure how it comes apart. And that shaft probably has a gear with a cam up in here. This is pretty thick. Pan up a little. And there's probably a mechanism off to the side. And I'm assuming that this bar probably just rubs up against the shaft, and it has maybe an outcropping to make it wobble. So instead of the shaft being a smooth cylinder like this, it probably has a little bump on it, kind of like putting the magnet. And then when the magnet smacks it, it causes this other bar to rotate back and forth. I don't know. I can only assume. It seems like the easiest mechanism because it's a very small shaft. There's not a lot of room in here to put a gear drive or a cam. It's a very tiny. This screwdriver is a standard screwdriver, and you can see it's almost the same width as here. So there's just a little metal bar, probably not much larger than this piece, that runs up inside. So one last check with the dying music box since I haven't rewound it, and it's pedaling. I'll be dreaming of this song later. I've only heard it a couple dozen times now. So if you have this music box, hopefully you don't ever have to take it apart. If you do, there's 3 screws deep in those holes. You don't have to take the other mechanism out unless for some reason your spring has sprung on the actual fingered mechanism or the fingers come unscrewed. If it's this, one, see if it's over lubricated. And 2, see if this mouse can be moved up and down on the shaft and then push it down farther so the wheel makes better contact. If that is the case, I would lift it, rotate it out of the way where it's above those 2 little fingers that hold the wheel like so, and then clean it off. I just used a piece of tissue and a small blade screwdriver, and I just rotated the music box. I just turned it on, let the wheel spin a hair, and then wiped it clean. Spin a hair, wiped it clean. I did it till I had almost 360 degrees of those 2 O-rings cleaned. Then I also made sure they were centered, because with this thing out of the way, it was way easier to line those 2 O-rings up. And then I pushed it down. So before I send it back, I am going to put a dab of glue on the butt, right here at the butt of the seat, and a dab of glue right between these 2 wheels, right where it goes through, and push it back a hair, right where it goes through the base, just to keep this from sliding. I'm not sure if they glued it originally or if it was a press fit. Probably a press fit, where they make the hole a 10,000ths of an inch smaller than the actual shaft, and then they squeeze it together. But over time, same thing. This is a plastic. Age, it fatigues. Heat and cold cycles cause the plastic to expand to where you have slack in this bar. So I wouldn't try bending it at first like I did. I didn't get much bend out of it, and that's because it was slipping. But see if it's come free of the butt or the axle or both, like this one is. So a dab of glue. I'm going to let it sit for a while. I'm going to put it back in its box. I'm going to send her an email letting her know I accidentally broke her flag. And then I am going to get the next one out and work on that one. If you do take it apart, careful of the flag. Don't make a mistake like I did. And careful of the lubrication, since this one's really well lubed. Let's turn the light off so it's not reflecting. But if you want to read it, you can pause the video here. You can read what it says on this side. If you want to read this, you can pause the video here, and you can read all the information on the back. And then here's the other side, where I will show you where it says, "Watch as the mouse spins the cheese on his nose. Be amazed that the unicycling mouse revolves around the column." And the bottom, marvel as the darling mice swing on the trapeze. But they left out the one on the balance bars. How rude of them. Balance bar. Tightrope. However you want to call it. So, that is that. If you're interested in trying to find one, apparently the UPC item number is 581240. It says it right there too. I'm not sure where you get them. You can also see this was made in 1990. So this piece is 21 years old. If it just recently started failing, that's pretty good. 21 years for a plastic piece that moves and is animated just based on the spring tension of a music box. That's not bad. That's pretty good longevity, especially since it's probably stored part of the year. And then again, you have to deal with those heat and cold cycles, which damage a lot of things because of the contraction and expansion. So hopefully you enjoyed it. It's the first time I ever worked on a music box. It's not going to be the last one, since I have half a dozen of these that were sent, and we're going to work on them all. Still going to work on other stuff, as you saw in the previous video. If you watched it, I still have to finish that. It's being a pain in the butt, so taking a break from the stress of figuring out the circuitry to build a new circuit board, which is a Department 56. Department 56 don't break as often, but when they do, they are much harder to repair. So anyhow, till the next one, thanks for watching.